Testing. Secure your Elixir apps with Paraxial.io. From code analysis and bot defense to dependency checks, they've got you covered. Elixir first design with GitHub integration. Elevate your security at Paraxial.io. All right. What's up? I'm Jacob Blitzo, your Elixir mentor, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Elixir Mentor podcast. This is where we discuss everything related to Elixir, from interviews with enthusiasts, pioneers in the community, to innovative projects and libraries shaping Elixir's future. Today, I'm excited to have Peter Solnica on, and he's a creator of JustCrossPost, which is a new platform he created. He is a Elixir and Ruby developer, and he also is known for Elixir drops and other open source projects. Welcome, Peter. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have anything you want to add to your introduction, please go ahead and do that now.
Hi, yeah, I'm excited to be here. So thanks for having me. That was perfect. I really don't like doing introductions, so let's just talk.
All right, that works for me. So I guess, sorry, my stuff today is just one of those mornings. Everything is breaking for me. But yeah, let's start talking about your background a little bit. What got you into the Elixir ecosystem and starting to build with Elixir?
Yeah, so that's a weird story, I guess. So before Elixir, I spent like over 15 years doing Ruby mostly. But at some point, I got interested in functional programming. That was in 2012, around 2012. So I started experimenting with applying functional concepts in Ruby. Starting with immutability, which broke my brain for a little bit. But
I think it breaks everyone's brain a little bit.
Yeah, when you start, it's hard. Like if you are used to like object-oriented programming, then yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah.
But I pushed through, and I sort of started to see that like this is my new direction. Like I really like how my code starts to look like. So I started writing libraries in Ruby that would like enable people to write more functional Ruby code than other object-oriented. And like long story short, I ended up writing functional code in Ruby, and I did that for many years pretty successfully. I wrote a bunch of libraries, like especially Ruby Object Mapper, which is like a toolkit for persistence and data mapping that is based on the idea that you're just not mutating data in Ruby, and it works really well. So that kind of proved to me, at least, that this can work, and it's just a good idea. And I actually like to say that ROM is kind of like Ecto in Ruby. They are really similar, like when it comes to like the concepts that they have. I also built a bunch of libraries under DryRB organization for like functional data validation, for example, where you're like not creating a mutable object to validate it. You're just validating data without changing them. And I spent many years doing this, and I always knew about Elixir. Like, I mean, it was created like right there, like near Krakow. So I knew about it, but I just didn't have any opportunity to like really work with it. But for like many years, like since 2016, I think, I thought that, yeah, that's gonna be the language for me after Ruby. I just waited for the right moment, and I waited for like, some time. And eventually in 2021, I got my first Elixir job. And that's how it started. So I didn't think much, like I just took the opportunity because I was just so excited about, the fact that I'm going to write Elixir on a daily basis. And I, played with the language before getting the job. Like every now and then I would like check it out and see how it's evolving. So I had like basic understanding of the syntax and like basic concepts, but I like really learned the language during my first job. So between like April 2021 and last year's April, I worked there. Then it was a startup, and unfortunately it didn't work. So we had to shut it down, and I started looking for a new job. And eventually I found a new job at Sentry, where I'm maintaining the Elixir SDK and Ruby SDK as well. So still doing Elixir as my job, and that's kind of my like primary language now. Last year I actually decided to stop contributing to my Ruby libraries because just no time. That was hard to decide, but it felt like there's no other choice. So I'm basically fully focused on Elixir these days. Oh, and yeah, I created Elixir drops, which is kind of like a Elixir part of dry validation library, or at least initially it works like that. So it's for like, it's good for validating things like JSON, for example,
Okay.
where you can like really easily define validation schema for even like very deeply nested complex data structures. I know that you can do it in Ecto as well with like embedded stuff. I just find it easier to define a schema without so much noise around it. It's just shorter to write it in drops. But yeah, I didn't have much time to work on this library lately, unfortunately. I use it in my project in JustCrossPost. It works for me, so I like don't feel the need to like change it. But I'm definitely planning to like work more on it and add more features and like see what else I can do with this library.
Awesome. That's cool.
Oh yeah, that's long story short.
No, that's awesome. I feel like people like so you kind of got to learn Elixir on the job. Like people don't realize how lucky they are when you don't have to apply and get an Elixir job, and it's kind of nice when you get to kind of learn it as you go, already in a role. That's cool.
Yeah, I was super lucky. Essentially, I was hired with like very basic knowledge, but like the founders of the company knew me from Ruby ecosystem, so there was just mutual trust there. And like the hardest part, I think, when learning a language like Elixir is to understand functional programming, and I understood it already. So
Hmm.
it was mostly remembering that there's do at the end of the function definition, stuff like
Yeah,
that, because
yeah.
I would like trip on it all the time. And like just learning what kind of libraries there are and like how to use them, stuff like that. So it was like pretty easy to just become quite productive. I think it took me
Yeah.
like 5-6 months to like become like really productive. Like I couldn't tell the difference between writing Ruby versus Elixir.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome. I
yeah.
feel like when I'm in projects where I have to like context switch a lot, I'm always Googling syntax no matter what. And I feel like I can't maintain muscle memory of either syntax. So like luckily, like the last few years I've been just Elixir for the most part, and it's nice. I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah, although I noticed that I'm getting better at this. Like I switch between Ruby and Elixir almost daily.
Hmm.
And I noticed that there's just something that just switched in my brain. Like when I see that this is a Ruby project, some like a switch flips, and I'm
Oh,
like, okay,
nice.
I'm in Ruby mode. And I also, like one of the things that was driving me crazy was running tests. I would keep writing rake or rspec in Elixir projects and mix in Ruby projects all the time.
Yeah.
So I just wrote a script that detects if this is a Ruby or Elixir project, and it runs the right command. And the script is called T. So I just press T, hit enter, and it just runs the test. So
Perfect.
yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
context switching is hard. At least it's hard for me. So I feel like that's a superpower you have that you can do it so easily.
Oh, well, yeah, thank you.
Otherwise, like, well, I forget, like, I used to jump between like JavaScript and Swift and TypeScript and C sharp, and I would forget how to do for loops and things like that. Like, oh my gosh! And so I'm just always Googling syntax. What people probably use all the large language models for now, but
Yeah, I
I
was going to say exactly this.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I feel like I use them to help me write tests and sometimes look up documentation, but I always do that with like I don't really trust it, so I'll usually pull it up myself anyways.
Mm. Yeah, something that helped me that I just remembered was that I back then in my previous job I used to use GitHub Copilot. So
Mm,
whenever I wasn't sure how to write something in Elixir, I would just write it in Ruby and be like, yeah, like please rewrite it in Elixir.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah, that's a good
And these were
idea.
like little snippets of code, so it was very fast to do this and immediately see how it can be done in Elixir. So that helped me a lot.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Yeah, refactoring and things I think are pretty nice to use in, the AI world. I don't find it very, very awesome for writing code yet. I mean, like small snippets, yeah, like here, I need to do this algorithm. I need take this input, I need this output. And you can usually get a good start, but you're going to be cleaning code up.
Yeah, I have different experience. I basically write code with AI like every day since like
Really?
September. Yeah,
Oh,
since September
wow.
last year. I mean, it's not 100%, but it's a big chunk of
Okay.
code that I have is basically AI because like I learned how to do it so that it doesn't drive me crazy, and it's actually helpful,
See,
especially
I
when it
think
comes
that's
to
my problem.
UI.
I feel like I'm just fighting it, and like, it's not giving me what I want, so I fight it and I waste more time doing that than what I could have just written it.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I get
maybe
it.
I'm not a good prompt writer.
Well, it's a skill, you can learn
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny. So, all right, your day job is Sentry and you maintain SDKs over there, which is really cool. And tell us about JustCrossPost. That's your new app. I feel like has it been out very long, or when did you officially launch it?
It's not like publicly available yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but will be later this year. It's in closed alpha and the beta
Okay.
is around the corner. So
I could have
I
sworn
actually,
I
yeah,
checked it out and I was like I was like, this is something I need.
everybody needs it these days.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
the
like
truth.
I use what is Opus Pro for like creating the video snippets from like all my long form stuff, which is great. And I can cross post my videos, but there's nothing to cross post, just like a simple tweet.
Yeah,
And so like I find myself like when I'm announcing like this podcast, I'm copy and pasting my post everywhere.
yeah. So right there, you have a use case. So
Yeah,
sign
exactly.
up, sign up for beta. What can I say? But yeah, so the
I'm
story
signing
is
up
kind of
right
funny.
now.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so the story is kind of funny. So I recently added to my like LinkedIn profile that I'm a founder. So because why
Oh,
not? Yeah, because why not? It looks cool.
it
And
looks cool, and then you get DMs from everybody.
I'm not there yet. I mean,
Okay.
I am getting DMs, but not from everybody.
Well, mostly
um,
like salespeople. Just that's so a little hack that I do on LinkedIn, so I know if it's an automated bot. I put my middle initial after my first name, and so if it's an authentic message, they say, "Hey Jacob." If it's an automated message, it's
nice.
"Hey Jacob A," and I'm like, "Yeah, later, bro."
I'm gonna steal that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
good. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, like on LinkedIn profile, the founder role that I added is described as I built a product by an accident. And that's like my description. And then that's the truth. Like I try to use some cross-posting apps in the past for like 2 years plus, and I didn't like any of them. And I thought that one day I will just spend a couple of days building like a quick, like just for me, just for my own usage, a quick app that will be messy but will work the way I like it to work, right? And I did that in September, and just coincidentally, like somebody on LinkedIn recommended to me that I should check out Cursor AI. And I was like, okay, cool. It's like a AI-driven editor based
Hmm.
on VS Code that I use. So like all my settings, all the extensions that I use will be there. Like Vim mode will be there, which is super important for me. So awesome, I can just check it out. I already had a little bit of experience with Claude for like generating HTML mockups, and I really like saw potential in this. but this was not integrated with my editor. So I couldn't see how I could like effectively, productively use it in my everyday, programming routines. But when I learned that there are editors with like deeply integrated NI, where the experience is like really good, I was like, yeah, I have to check it out. So I installed Cursor, and in less than a week, I built like the entire app supporting like, I think 2 networks initially. And it just blew my mind because it didn't look like crap. It looked pretty good. And I have to say that this was the first time when I built an app, like a web app with a UI since like 2010 or so.
Yeah.
I do not understand how modern CSS works. Like I
Oh,
don't,
dude, I'm right there with you.
yeah,
I
I don't know it.
struggle.
Yeah. And I hate HTML. Like I cannot write it. But I can kind of, explain how I want the UI to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out that that was enough.
Yeah.
And, I wasn't really aware of how much it can do for me. So I learned things like it can generate icons for me. I can describe the type of icon that I want, and it's going to generate an SVG for me.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's ridiculous,
Yeah.
So it went so fast, and it looked, pretty good. And I thought to myself, I can build a product,
Yeah. That's great.
Seriously.
Well, I use AI for front end dev all the time, like elixirmentor.com, most of that, because I'm the same as you. I'm all thumbs when it comes to like Tailwind and divs, and I don't know. My brain just doesn't like it.
Yeah, I hear you. So it was a breakthrough for me. Like I for like 2 weeks or so, I just couldn't think about anything else. Like I was just so excited. Like all the things that I wanted to build for years, like I just shut all those doors, in my head, and
Yeah.
they just all of them opened at the same time. And I was like, oh my God,
Now I'm a
for
full
like 2 weeks
stack
or so.
dev.
Yes, exactly. I can do it again, So it was crazy. Like literally, like I felt like I'm losing my mind. It's just so awesome. And then I calmed down and just continued working on the app. But it's not perfect. There are lots of things that lots of things that will not work well, and you may not notice. Stuff like that happens. So it's a learning curve for sure.
I think that's all software products, though. You're always going to have those bugs that people might not notice, but you're always going to be working on them.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, I had to develop new skills for working with AI on a daily basis. But it wasn't too hard, and there are lots of resources out there to like help you. But at the end of the day, like the most like critical parts of the system, like for example, the publishing backend, I rewrote it myself. Like it's like probably like 80-90% my own code. Because it was just such a mess with just so much stuff that wasn't needed, and some weird things breaking in ways that are hard to fix. And also I just knew that the architecture design of it was just bad. And I moved to Auburn Pro and just rewrote it using workflows, which are amazing. I love them. And it helped me, break it down into like smaller, nice, Auburn workers, like combined together into a bigger workflow.
Yeah, Oben's amazing. I just got the bonus of starting to work with Oben workers and things, and it's amazing. It's a really nice product.
Yeah, using Auburn was like almost 100% of my previous job, honestly. Like,
okay, awesome.
Yeah, because we did a lot of data processing in the backend, so it was just a lot of workers and dealing with. I
always just like hacked together my own gen servers, and I never really had a need for like scheduling and retrying things. Like I just never hit those points with whatever products I was building. But like the ease of use that you have with Open Pro is like it's life changing.
Yeah, exactly. And in case of JustCrossPost, there are just lots of scenarios where things fail all the time, and you got to retry and again and again.
Well, you're connecting to so many third-party social media networks, right? So it's unknown, and you probably get crazy different errors from each one, and you just have a lot of use cases to cover.
Yeah, and you also get to learn like how individual services work and what quirks they have. Like for example, the initial publishing backend was so dumb that it would it had I mean not dumb, it was just buggy. So there was a use case where it wouldn't process the response from one of the APIs, Mastodon specifically, and it would treat it as a failure and it would retry the job.
Oh no.
Publishing the post again. And interesting thing is that some networks, like they do not allow you to do this. Like you cannot post the same thing, like the same text and attachments and stuff like that in a short period of time. LinkedIn for sure, and X for sure. I think Blue Sky as well. But Mastodon doesn't have that. You
So
can
you
just
got in this
spam
loop.
it. Yeah, you can just spam it and it's gonna accept it. So at some point, it was funny. Like I posted something on Mastodon. I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was some opinion that was maybe a little bit controversial or something. And it would go in a loop, and it would just keep posting it again and again. And I got a message from some random person like, do you really think it's funny? And I was like, oh, I know. It was an opinion, but like kind of like a half a joke, And I was yeah, actually, it's kind of funny. And then I looked at my timeline and I was like, oh shit.
That is so funny. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's funny that that's like the type of post that it happened on too.
Yeah, exactly.
So if Peter is spamming out there, guys, it's just he accidentally wrote a bug.
Yes, I think a lot of people learn about this.
That's so funny. And yeah, I'm guessing other platforms will just throw you an error if you try to do it.
Oh yeah, they will actually tell you why they are not accepting your request, that you cannot post the same thing again. So It's actually really nice because you just know exactly what happened.
I will say, not many people support Blue Sky, and so you're kind of a first for that one. Unless I just don't really do that much research. But like actually, for at least like with Opus and video platforms, not many do.
Yeah. So when it comes to more like post text oriented cross-posting platforms like Buffer or Typefully, they recently added support for Blue Sky because Blue Sky exploded last year and they just decided to catch up very quickly. So they do support Blue Sky. Nice. And yeah, I added support for it like immediately because I started using it. There are some friends there. So yeah, it was a no-brainer.
I know. I feel like the Elixir community is split now. And I just post in both places.
Yeah. But like Joseph joined Blue Sky, so that's a big step forward.
That is a big step.
Yeah. So right, yeah, like when I rewrote it to open workflows, like most issues just disappeared, and it's just so easy to manage this code now. Like I didn't really touch this code since December, I think, which is a good sign because it would be changed like almost every day. So I'm very happy about that.
What does alpha testing look like for you right now? What are you working through, and what features are you hoping to have before you go into beta?
Yeah, so when I started like writing about it, like publishing some social media posts about it, people started just reaching out to me asking whether it's going to be available like publicly soon, or whether it's going to be open source, for example. But I was like, no, it's a product. And I just decided to open it up to people who are like really interested in testing it out and who are my friends.
I mean, that's a good spot to start, right? You get good feedback and hopefully a couple power users that can break it, right?
That's exactly what happened. So yeah, all of them are programmers, so they are using the service like in all kinds of weird ways. And yeah, I had lots of bug reports, especially during the like initial phase where a lot of the code was written by AI, and I just fixed them all. And a lot of also feedback related to just how the UI works. So that was very helpful. I think I have like over 20 people with access, but like the number of people who actually use the service on a daily basis is, I don't know, maybe like 6 people.
Okay.
But that was honestly enough to get a lot of feedback and bug reports. So it was very
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah. So when it comes to features that I need for the beta release, like everything is done in terms of like user-facing features. The only thing that I need to finish is like everything related to like plans and features and subscriptions, that like just payments basically.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's almost done as well. So like I have like a system for defining features with some like optional limitations, like for example, how many posts you can schedule on a like per month, stuff like that. And plans are like a way of grouping features, and I can add features to specific people, for example, so that I can give you access to one of the features even though you're not on a plan that has this feature.
Okay.
So I spent quite some time like playing with how to implement it, and it's looking good. So it's gonna be flexible, because if I want to like experiment with a new feature and have some people test it out, it's gonna be very easy to do it. So
That's nice. And you can slowly roll it out and
yeah,
kind
exactly.
of beta test each feature on your
Yeah,
production platform.
yeah, exactly. So so I need to wrap up this part, because there are a couple of features that are not applied in the code, like I don't know, like media upload, like uploading images and videos. Like we have limits, but they are not applied. So you can upload like a 1
Okay.
gigabyte, video now. But I need to limit that, because lots of gigabytes sent to JustCrossPost will be pricey eventually.
That will be. Well, and then you probably have different size requirements for each social platform as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like for Blue Sky is like the most restrictive. They have like 1 megabyte is their image limit. And I'm not an expert when it comes to like image optimization, so I use Cloudinary, I don't know how to say it.
Okay. Yeah.
Service which supports like on-demand image optimization. You just add some additional parameters to the download URL of an image, and it just on the fly it optimizes it. And I thought that it's just gonna work, but no. Sometimes there are some images which will still be too big, so I need to figure out a way to like, I don't know, maybe like iteratively just keep trying, optimize it until I get the right size. I
If
don't
you
know.
hit an error, you'd
Or an error, yeah.
or yeah, whatever it may be, like read the error 1 megabyte, and then you can optimize the image to 1 megabyte or whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, image stuff is over my head too. I always use some sort of like CDN service and then pull just whatever optimized size image you need. Because like I was saying, like I'm not a front end web guy, and like there's a lot of headaches that come with that UI piece.
Oh yes, yeah. I spend like most of the time struggling with UI. I built like there's this form editor, post editor, I call it, where you are able to write your post in a single place, and it's going to be like automatically synced with like all other like networks where you want to publish it, so you can just change it in one place. And one thing that was driving me crazy in other places was that like the workflow would typically look like this. You write something and it's a thread, for example. So you have like, I don't know, like 4 like post replies in a thread. And it's like you write it for like all the networks. But then it turns out that, it exceeds the limit in some networks. So you got to go there and customize it and make it shorter. And once you start doing that in multiple places, like it really, really sucks. And it's hard because you will end up with duplicated content. And when there's a lot of content, you will have to like keep track of what you change where. So one simple thing that I wanted to have was that I want to sync everything like on demand, so we can like uncheck sync checkbox for a particular post that exceeds the limit, for example, and tweak it and just tweak that one and leave the rest untouched. and the rest will still be synced with the canonical, as I call it, content. So it speeds up the process of writing text content for multiple networks. Like one simple thing that really helps me.
Yeah, I was gonna just ask you that. I was gonna ask if you can like write a post and then, oh, it's too long for Blue Sky, and then you can have just your edited version for Blue Sky.
Yeah, that's exactly what we have.
That's
You
awesome.
have like dedicated versions that are synced, but again, on demand and on a post basis. Like if it's a thread, every single item in this thread is
Oh,
synced
okay.
separately. Which is not what other services do.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So
Yeah.
you support threads as well. How
Yeah.
do threads work for like, let's say like LinkedIn? Is it just kind of a comment?
No, so I decided to just combine all the thread items into a single post.
Okay.
And if you have things like, for example, I know some counters like 1 out of 10 or something like that, that people typically, I mean, not typically, but some people like append in thread items, or like I know a hand with with your finger pointing that there's more, which is what I do.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can write your thread and then at the end go to LinkedIn. Tab in the editor and just remove the stuff that doesn't make sense. But I'm actually planning to add some features that will just do it automatically for you. It's like the simplest thing that you can do. But I'm also considering adding like an option that you want to write like only the beginning of the thread and then add the remaining parts as links and comments. I don't know, maybe it makes more sense for some people. So yeah, and obviously there are some AI features that you can use to like automatically shorten content for you, which I'm
That would be
definitely
kind of
going to
cool to
implement. Yeah.
automatically do that and then still allow people to edit it just in case, because AI likes to throw words in there you'd never use in a post. But that would
Yeah.
be cool. Yeah, I love that. I don't know. I feel like LinkedIn, people are used to longer form posts, so I don't think you necessarily would need to ever make comments or a thread as long as you're not hitting. I don't even know. Do they even have a limit on post length?
Yeah, 3,000.
Okay, 3,000, which that's a lot of content, I feel like.
It's a long article.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. So what, let's see, you support Blue Sky, LinkedIn, X,
And Mastodon.
and Mastodon. Any plans for like Instagram, Facebook, any of those?
Um, yeah, but I'm not sure which exact platforms I will support. It depends on what people will ask for. So there will be like a feedback app. I mean, I already have it, so you can like leave feedback and like send some feature requests. So I will see what people are asking for. I'm actually kind of weird with some ideas that I have for the service. Like there will be some like features for nerds, for example. I want to add, and I will probably do it pretty soon because just I need it. I'm gonna add support for GitHub that
Nice.
that you will just connect your GitHub account. You will give access to your static page repository, like the repository where you have your static page set up. And you will just configure where you want the post to go and how it should be named. And you will be able to like post to your blog from JustCrossPost. And for example, create a summary as a social media post at the same time, for example.
Oh, that's awesome. I like
Yes,
that.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
I also want to add some like features to essentially help open source maintainers be active in social media and like talk about their open source projects with like not wasting too much time. Like one thing that I did at least in the past would be to post some messages about like new features or like a new release announcement is a common post that you can publish. So you can like automate that. Like you can just connect to GitHub and be like, yeah, create like a draft of a post with an announcement for this repository whenever a new release comes up, and a draft will be created for you, and you will just accept it and click send, and boom.
That would be awesome. I think, yeah, that's a really cool idea. Is
Yeah,
anyone else doing things like that with GitHub?
I'm pretty sure no.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. There you
Yeah,
go.
so
That's
yeah,
going to
I'm
be
basically sorry.
what
Yeah.
sets you apart.
Yeah, I'm just targeting like the niche, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
developers with this service. So it's gonna be probably like a weird service eventually, but I don't care. Like it should
Hey,
work well.
the weirder the better, I think. Like if
Right.
you have a lot of cool just random integrations that developers use and not necessarily like people don't have to use them, but just having the ability there, I think will be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, GitHub will be added for sure. Like I'm moving with my blog to a static site generator again. It's a cycle. And I just need a way of like writing
And then you'll post your blog posts through
through,
Just
yeah,
Cross Post.
JustCrossPost. Yeah.
Okay. I like that idea. Yeah, I'm guessing you've done so. What is your blog currently on? Like a live view, or what did you write it in?
No, it's oh my God, I forgot how, like what's the name? Let me check. I literally forgot. Hashnode, it's
Hash.
called, I think. Hashnode, yeah, I think.
Oh, build blogs and API docs for developers and teams.
Yes,
Cool.
Hashnode. Yeah, so it seems like they are not evolving well, and I had some technical issues. So, um, and also I want to own my content again,
Yeah.
honestly.
Well, there's something to be said about that, right?
Right.
Like, yeah, my blog is I yeah, it's just stored in my Postgres database and I don't have a good editor right now because I just haven't had time.
Right.
But
Yeah.
static is good, and then you can just write just static HTML files. Is that and then update a repo, or how would you handle that?
So it's typically Markdown.
Markdown, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, with like the what's it called, like GitHub flavored Markdown, I think.
Okay,
Yeah, because they have like nicer syntax for code blocks and highlighting. So
nice.
yeah.
And then are you just host the Markdown inside of an HTML site, or or do you just can you just host a Markdown?
No, so like if you use a static site generator, it's gonna just convert Markdown to
Oh,
HTML.
into the HTML. Gotcha. Okay. Well, how are you automating that process then when you build the Markdown? Like a GitHub action, or how would that work?
Y- y- Yeah, yeah, it's typically a GitHub action.
Cool.
And there are, for every major static site generator, there are like existing actions that you just click a button on GitHub and you get it installed. So,
Okay, that's cool. I've never really used any static site generator stuff, but
oh, they're pretty cool.
I definitely see the benefit of it because it's got to be nice and fast too.
Yeah, yeah, and simple, and it's just Markdown, so it's easy to like. I transferred my blog to like I don't know like 3 or 4 static site generators, and it was always like a day of work, maybe even less. Just convert files a little bit and like rename them maybe and locate them. I mean, like put them in the right directory, and that was it.
Yeah, that's nice. I honestly I hate writing content, and I put a blog on my website just to try to help with SEO, and I'm so bad at actually writing posts, but like because video is much better, so I've been trying to think of a way to like. Some people told me I should just take the transcriptions from YouTube, which I'll probably do, but put the transcriptions of my podcast on my actual episode, and then that would probably be. I have to figure out a good way to do it. I don't know if just like dumping transcriptions somewhere, or I don't know how to do it yet. I haven't really thought it through, but I think that might be a better approach than writing blog posts for me.
Yeah, yeah. I think that I actually thought about it recently. I think that using transcription to like generate a draft from it using AI and then just rewriting it yourself would work, at least for me, I think, because it's gonna kickstart the process. Like for me, the hardest part is to start.
For
But
sure.
once I have like a draft, even if it sounds super weird, it's gonna get me going, and I will just probably write it myself.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that a good use case too. I could use it to summarize the episodes a little better because right now I've just like made generic paragraphs of what I think we're going to talk about, and like summarizing what was actually covered in the conversation, I think would be a big benefit for people.
yeah, one thing that I thought about when it comes to like converting videos with like programming content, which includes code, um, like converting them to articles, was to somehow, excuse me, figure out how to extract code examples from the video.
Oh, that would be
Because
cool.
yeah, because LLMs can actually do that probably. Like if you like upload an image with a piece of code and ask AI to describe what the code does, it's gonna figure it out. At
Hmm.
least that's my experience, which is crazy. So theoretically, you could just send the video and be like, extract all the code that I use there. And it's probably not going to be perfect, but it would also be a good starting point. Like it would save time, I think.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I wonder, like, yeah, if you write a post and then you could grab code snippets. I mean, if you screenshot the frame, it would probably grab the code snippet for you too.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be cool. Maybe that'll be my LLM project that I don't need to start, but I probably will.
Yeah, I hear you.
I started using like instructor and stuff with one of my projects trying to generate static websites. And I kind of got to a spot where I was creating decent stuff, but then I kind of hit a wall. I was very limited. Like I got it almost good enough to be a good site generator, and then I just like couldn't get over that hurdle. But
Mhm.
maybe someday, maybe AI can help me get over my hurdle.
Yeah, yeah, give it a go. It can unblock you on many things, honestly.
Because that was like, I
Um,
have a website called sitebrains, .io, and I kind of just grab, like product hunt websites and like other featured websites that are just cool. And I screenshot them with like mobile desktop mode. And then I try to have a color palette analyzed through like ChatGPT or OpenAI, I should say. And it's cool and it works well, but my goal would be like, I want to build something like this. And then you put in like company name, your color palette, upload a logo, and then have it site generate something similar, like with the same kind of layout and all of that. And I think it would be really cool. It's not quite there.
yeah, but it sounds like a really cool idea, honestly. Like that's
Yeah.
the thing, like you can like I mentioned, like so many doors are open. Like it's
Right.
crazy.
Yeah. So like it
Yeah.
would be really cool. Like, oh wow, someone comes to just cross post it app and they're like, this is an awesome product page that I want for my product. And then it takes the same concepts and knocks it out with your product. And then you can press like host me, and you automate the hosting process and everything. And then tell them to point their domain, give them some like A records or something, and good to go.
Yeah, it's actually what I did. I mean, not with all the pages, but definitely with the front page. I don't remember which pages I use as an inspiration, but I just pasted in the editor a couple of URLs, and I was like, I like these pages.
Hmm.
Please generate something similar,
Nice.
and it just did that. I mean, it wasn't immediately exactly the way I wanted it to be, but like
Right.
iteratively, like we like I said we, it's like my new friend. We went
Your
through,
assistant.
yeah, we went through the process of like making it better and better and better, and I kind of like it. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the same approach I took when I did elixirmentor.com because I was just like, I almost like this, but I don't like, and then you just do little tweaks, right? And then
yeah,
I mean, I do some code fixes when I know of better ways of doing things because I feel like at least with Elixir, you get a lot of bad code back, or they might not really flex pattern matching, or they might not do things very elixiry. Claude I found is like pretty decent at writing Elixir, but I feel like Chat GPT is not nearly as good.
Yeah, for me, only Claude works with
Yeah.
Elixir, honestly. But I would say in most cases, it generates code that I would write, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I think especially with like front end stuff, right? If you're just using Tailwind and HTML and you just need your front end layout, yeah, it's pretty good.
So yeah, well, yeah, like markup and CSS, yeah. But when it comes to LiveView, it like the thing gets lost so often.
It gets confused like between
Oh yes,
JavaScript hooks,
that too.
listeners, or why am I not like handle events and things like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that. And it'll just kind of use them I've like in an inconsistent pattern as well. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, and it just cannot learn what types of components exist. That there's a live component and a normal
Yeah.
component, and you know that you can define a component as a function or some object, you know, stuff like that. It gets confused and it generates some weird
Yeah.
broken code. And no matter what I do, it just cannot improve for whatever reason. I think I just need to create like a bunch of examples that I will be always attaching to the prompt,
That's a good idea.
and tell it to like, here are examples of LiveView components with like comments describing
Yeah.
them, and like follow these patterns, stuff
I
like
guess
that.
like I've always used it just for like the Heeks portion and then I write everything else because I feel like it definitely gets confused and doesn't know what to do with itself.
Yeah, exactly. On the other hand, when it comes to JavaScript, it's crazy. Like it's really good. I mean, there's so
It
much JavaScript code out
I
there that
know.
yeah, that learned all of it.
I was just watching a Prime video. He was talking about how he was like going through another dude's video who was talking about how the fear behind AI is like you have so much code out there, right? But most of it's just mediocre code. And that's where it's grabbing from. So are we going to end up with just a big pile of mediocre code because that's just what all these large language models are training off of?
Yeah, yeah, it's actually exactly what I thought previously, but I no longer think that. Again, like most, I mean, right now it's hard to tell. It's even impossible for me to verify this, but a significant portion of the code in JustCrossPost is generated by AI, and it's good code, honestly. So
But I feel like you're also in a position where you know if it's good. Like you have,
yeah, yeah,
like if you don't have the code smell skill, you don't really know you're just assuming what's being returned to you is good code, right?
yeah, exactly. I was going to say that I think that you need to be really experienced as a developer to use AI effectively, and
Yeah.
otherwise, like if you let me say this, like if you don't know how to implement an app and you will rely on AI to build it, it's gonna be shit. Like
Right.
it's gonna be pretty bad. But if you know how to build it yourself, then it's gonna speed up the process like a lot.
Yeah, because you can do it small bits and pieces versus trying to get it to build an entire thing for you too, because you actually know the process.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, when it comes to coding with AI, what I found at least is that the very same rules apply. I mean, guidelines applies. Like you don't want to make too many changes at once. Like if you're building a feature, you want to start with like the simplest thing that can work. You know, when you are fixing a bug, you shouldn't refactor. You should fix the bug, you know, improve your tests, and then maybe refactor, you know, stuff
Right.
like that, you know. And it's funny because I knew that, right? But I was so excited about AI that I was like, it can do everything for me. And I would be like, implement this feature, and would just describe all of it at once. And I would end up with just so much code that is broken or partially working, you know. So again, it's a learning curve, and you gotta know how to use it effectively. And if you are experienced as a software engineer, you can succeed, you know, quite a bit with AI. But like what's like an unknown, I think, is what the impact overall will be eventually. Like lots of programmers and non-programmers are building apps right now with AI, and they may get an impression that their apps work well. So, but when in reality there are lots of weird bugs, and we will probably see some disasters because of this, and hopefully they will not be, too bad. But at the same time, all these models are getting better and better very fast. Like I can see the difference. September last year and January now, I can see a significant difference in quality. Like for example, there's this new agent mode in Cursor editor that kind of simulates how a person would work with code. So it would like search for code, it would execute commands. Like obviously you need to give it permissions to execute them automatically without your permission. I mean, without your permission when it's when you're in the prompter. So it's a great improvement. Like it knows how to search for code that you actually have and figure out what it should use, what functions actually exist. Although sometimes it doesn't do it. It's a little bit unstable, but still, like we didn't have that in September.
Yeah.
And it's a huge improvement. Like I can give you a good example. Like I had a use case where there was an issue with a Ruby gem that was used in a way that the code would like reach for some internals and like private instance attributes. And I had a theory that this was causing some issues. And I asked, like, I was just out of curiosity, like I asked it like, hey, like, I think that this is causing some trouble. Like, can you investigate? And what that thing did was that it installed the gem, it opened an interactive session, it required the gem, it used it in the session to see how it works, and then came up with some conclusion. That was wrong, by the way, but it blew my mind that it actually just installed the gem itself, and it knew what to do with it. It was crazy.
That's kind of scary.
It kind of is.
I don't know if I want to give permissions to just open up my terminal and install things.
Yeah, I'm using Docker, so it's all in a.
Oh, okay. You can at least just be done with the container. Yeah.
So
the safe way of doing things, Docker. I mean, all my development stuff's always in Docker, but yeah, a lot of my local environment stuff isn't though. I always keep databases in Docker, even locally, but yeah, I usually keep my local host projects local host just because it's a little easier.
Yeah,
I switched. You build everything in a Docker instance?
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, that's my main,
Nice.
not the only way, but main way of writing, of like building projects in Docker. But I have some less, let's say, less standard requirements because I switch between versions of different languages constantly. I switch between like configurations to like reproduce some really obscure bugs. So I need a way to like very quickly set up something that will replicate some some environment. And I just find Docker to be easier to manage because I'm not messing with my host system. So
yeah, for sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. I'll have to. I noticed. I was on YouTube and I was browsing your channel a little bit right before this, and you have some videos about your dev setup, right? I'm gonna have to check those out because that's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I showed how I set up Sentry, because in VS Code you have like first class support for dev containers, which is an open standard right now. So we can like define Docker containers for development using some like special syntax. And I actually learned that last year that you can use this feature to like configure your container without like having your own like Docker file and stuff like that. You just say like, hey, I need Redis and I need Ruby and I need this and that, and you just like check boxes.
Oh,
You
That
check
changes.
boxes.
See, that's why I don't use it for everything because I thought you had to have your like YAML file and everything set up in your Docker file and
Not the case anymore. And
hmm,
for like more complex things, like JustCrossPost has its own Docker file because it's also used for deployment. I like to like unify my like
right.
infrastructure setup, so
Well,
that's really
deploying with Docker is the only way. That's it makes life so much easier because you don't even
yeah.
have to worry about what do they call like the cluster, like the local host cluster when you launch more than one image.
Swarm, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just like that being built in makes it so nice because it's just all your like your database, your project, whatever you may have, it's just all communicating in local hosts essentially.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes things break and you just rebuild your
Yeah,
thing and
yeah, exactly.
container. It's so easy. So yeah, I like it. It's been like again like my main way of working for years now. So
Yeah, I've always used Docker for deployments, but not so much. I mean, outside of just having my DBs on it, not so much localhost. But I might have to change my ways because you have a lot more protection too when you're just in your own
that's
Docker containers.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Especially when it comes to
Basically,
AI
when you're letting
running
a
commands.
AI monster just open terminals and install things.
Yeah.
That's funny. But yeah, then you don't really have to worry about it. You're in your own little safe atmosphere or environment that you can just rebuild if you need to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's got that's everything. It's got its pros and cons, and like for me, the pros were always like greater than the cons. So
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. What made you want now you said that just cross post kind of you built as like a personal need. So what was it originally? Just like command line kind of thing or how what was the or just really ugly UI? What was the first iteration of it?
No, the first iteration was actually like a full-blown web UI because I used AI to generate it.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was the
nice.
crazy part.
What
That's why
part
I was so, just excited.
what part made you say, "Hey, this is a good product"?
So many people started telling me that,
Oh, they wanted
oh
it.
my God, I need it
Yeah.
so much. And I was like, I know.
That's awesome. I love that. The
So,
accidental products. That's
so yeah.
yeah. I uh I know I'm gonna annoy people because I talk about it all the time. But I made like a website host basically for my own needs. Like I wanted to be able to get clients' websites just built and hosted faster. And yeah, it actually turned into it would be a pretty awesome product to sell like web development platform or like SEO agents, whatever you want to call it, any kind of consultancy out there, and they could just kind of cluster host, hundreds, thousands of websites all in one Phoenix project.
Whoa, that is interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
and hosting is still hard for whatever reason. I don't know. It's 2025.
I mean, hosting's not hard, but
No, I struggle.
I mean, yeah, I get what you're like, but I feel like I use my same systems over and over. I'll always just use DigitalOcean droplets, and then it's just always Docker. So I have kind of my same build scripts for everything. But what the pain in the butt was always like SSL certs and just like all the initial configuration you do for individual websites. I was like, I'm doing this over and over when now I have it just set up in one project and I add HTML and like so I do some dynamic routing. I have a dynamic live view and like dynamic static view routers. So like my router file is awesome. There's like 3 routes in it and it dynamically loads every
Oh,
website that I host, which is pretty cool.
yeah,
And
that is
then
nice.
I see cool projects like Beacon CMS and I'm rethinking everything that I'm doing for at least how I'm routing things and stuff because they use ETS tables. So they like kind of load everything once and then they're using ETS tables as kind of like a cache for remembering routes, which allows them to customize. Like The thing that I did, I ended up routing off of file names. So I kind of have like a website generator that creates the same um, like directory format for every project. So if naming convention changes at all, I can break my routes, which is kind of limited.
Yeah,
But but
yeah,
yeah, and then you see cool projects built by smarter people, and you're like, that's a brilliant idea. And then it
yeah,
allows you to get rid of physical files too, and you can store and render everything from the database.
yeah. That is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked into Beacon last year. Maybe I will try to like convert my blog to use Beacon because Elixir.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. Yeah, yeah, it's nice. Like I like the like editing capabilities that it has.
The way they architected everything too, I can't imagine the learning curves they went through when they first started the project, but they're in a really awesome place now. Like I feel
Yeah.
like I'm like a couple stages behind them, and then Beacon CMS came out, and I was like, dang it. Like if I could have just had that project before.
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely a really cool project.
Yeah,
And
it's great to see that, we have such systems appear in the ecosystem. Like every language needs a CMS, right?
for sure. Yep. And every project turns into a CMS, so you might as well.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you using for like hosting your videos and images and everything? Are you using the cloud? I forgot what it was for everything.
Cloudinary. Yeah. It's a
It
storage
and it's
and
good for video as well.
It optimizes videos,
Okay. Well, I
just
guess
like
you're
images.
more uploading files. You're not streaming video, right?
Yeah,
So you just really need the storage. That makes sense.
yeah, yeah. I just need to make sure that it's possible to upload something to a given network, and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Are you maintaining history for forever of assets, or do things expire?
No, so there will be limitations. Like hard to tell now how exactly it's going to work, but some limitations when it comes to how much of the history is maintained.
Yeah, that makes
Uh,
sense because that's going to be a lot of your costs is
yeah,
storing
exactly.
assets, right?
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, I want to make sure that it's easy for people to like just get their content and like export it somewhere.
Mhm.
Like for example, with GitHub, you will be probably able to just upload stuff to GitHub automatically through GitHub Actions. So
Yeah, yeah. That'll be cool. You'll have some fun growing pains as this thing takes off.
hopefully, I mean,
There's no avoiding it. I know. I think it's an awesome product. I think you'll take it places for sure. I'm excited to see it launch. I'm gonna have to try to get in that inner circle alpha group for cross posting though.
yeah, yeah, it's a good thing to do these days, honestly. Like you're gonna reach more people, and some people have their preferences when it comes to networks. So it's just good to be everywhere.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I feel like adding platforms and knowing what like that's going to be a never ending job.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, but at the same time, I honestly don't have like big plans to like support as much as possible. I want to like keep it as quiet as possible while at the
Hmm.
same time being financially, viable.
Yeah,
So
no, that's smart.
yeah, I actually want to build more stuff. So like more apps. Like one app that I have, I built it in Ruby, but now I have a better idea how it should work. It's a tool for like automation related to open source maintenance for things like if you have like a lot of repositories and you have a lot of similar files, like readmes or I don't know some pieces of docs or whatever. It's often the case that you want to keep those files in sync in terms of like the structure and common information, and it's a pain in the ass to like do it manually. So you can automate that and then like have a tool where you like define templates for such files. It includes like configuration files, like for example, common workflows for GitHub Actions, for example. It's a really good example. So I want to have like an app that just does this for you, and it can either like automatically sync everything or open pull requests with updates to your files. I built something like this for Ruby projects where we had like definitely over 50 projects, 50 repositories, and it saved so much time. Like all the readmes would be up to date, like all the license files would be up to date, stuff
Oh,
like
that's
this.
nice.
So, yeah,
So you
and
change it in one spot and then it'll spawn it across whatever template's been used.
yeah, exactly. But it was based on the idea that there is like a source repository where you edit files, and then whenever you change something, it gets synced with other
Nice.
repositories. But actually now I want to build it like differently, where you just define things in the app. So it's stored not on GitHub, but in the app. And there's just, first and foremost, there is UI, because hello, I can do it now. And you just define your templates there using a nice interface, and you configure like which repositories should use which templates. And what's nice is that you can like render these templates using information from GitHub. So like if you have a README, you can like replace common parts like the name of the project or stuff like this, because you all
Nice.
like it's all in the GitHub API.
So how do you see this working? Like a web app, and then I just would connect my GitHub account to it?
Yeah, so it would be like a web app alongside an actual GitHub app. So you give
Okay.
permissions to a GitHub app, and the GitHub app would operate on your behalf, and it would
Gotcha.
like open pull requests, or like it would push to repositories if that's what you want. But you would control everything from the app, from like the web app.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would use that. That's a really cool idea.
Yeah, it's also something that a lot of people told me that like we want to pay for this, like please build
Yeah.
it. So hopefully I will do it. I want to do it this year.
We're just
So
gonna see. So Peter's gonna have this just umbrella of awesome apps that just developers need.
hopefully, like that would be awesome.
Yeah, I love that. That's cool. So that'll be cool. Now everyone that's listening and listens to this has to keep you in check to make sure this comes out. So make sure
Yeah,
you
please
guys
do.
follow him on social media and bug him every once in a while.
Yeah, but I abandoned a lot of projects in the past, but always it was always the same thing. I would start building the UI and I would hit a wall and I would give
Yeah.
up. It was the same story for like 10 years. So and like
Yeah, like
you
I'm
know,
majority, like I'm a back end developer, so it's always the same for me. It's just like, oh, if I could just wrap my head around Tailwind and all that stupid stuff, I could really pull out this app quickly. And then I just like don't have the drive to figure it out. Well, I can figure it out, but I move so slow with front end dev when I am doing it on my own that yeah, AI is a nice handy assistant for that.
yeah, it's crazy. Like there are a lot of people who are just, let's call them like AI skeptical or something. Like no matter what you say, they almost don't want to believe that. Like some people would argue that it's not that big of a difference, and I mean, it depends on what we're talking about exactly when it comes to like engineering. But again, like when it comes to UI, excuse me, UI, it's huge. Like I can build a piece of UI in like 15 minutes that would previously take me a day, if not more. And
Yeah.
even then, it wouldn't work well on some displays, especially mobile stuff like this. And now it's like 15 minutes. Like
Yeah.
I,
And you
I
can
can
be
like
like, make this mobile friendly, and then it will. I'm
yeah,
like, I
I did
think,
that actually.
yeah, I think I'm on the fence. I find myself going both directions depending on the day with how I feel about AI. Sometimes I'm skeptical and I'm like, oh, this is garbage. And then I'm like, wow, that's actually pretty impressive. And like, I don't know, I'm in that. I get tugged both directions right now.
Yeah, yeah,
I
I
see
hear
the
you. I
benefits.
mean,
Like, I don't think it's something to be scared of. I think it's just an extra tool to make us more productive.
yeah, that's exactly how I see it. But at the same time, like I don't think that software engineering skills are not going to be needed. I think we will need engineers for a long time. But like the approach is changing. Like
Hmm.
I think that eventually most engineers pretty soon will be using AI, and if you're not using AI, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah. Well,
I really think that.
it's kind of like a graphing calculator. Like so many people were against graphing calculators and calculus and like doing all that, and you can't just not find the derivative by hand. Like, and it's just a tool. I'm horrible at mental math, but I can do it with a calculator.
Yeah.
Um, how do you? One thing that I always think about, and I don't know how, like, I should ask this question more with actually guests that come on. Do you think there's going to be, like, I think AI is a great tool, right? It'll be part of our forever tool bank for software development. But I think it makes us so efficient that now more companies are only hiring senior level developers and there's less junior roles available. Do you think we're going to run into a weird like skill gap when we like senior developers start to retire or they stop working and no one's trained junior devs?
Yeah, yeah, it's a huge problem, and it was a huge problem before AI. Honestly, like so many companies would always hire seniors or
Hmm.
like at least mid seniors, and it was really difficult for juniors to find work. And now it's for me it's difficult to like it's hard to predict. Like AI is definitely turning things upside down for sure, and it's a new skill that everybody has to learn. But like how it's going to impact junior developers, I it, I have no idea. Like it can go both ways. Like it
Yeah.
can be really really good or it can be really really bad. Um, I have no
Yeah.
idea honestly. Like if we kind of like do something to make sure that new developers are learning engineering at least like a basic level to understand at least at the basic level what the AI is generating, then we should be good. But
I th-
if we see like yeah,
oh no, I was just gonna say I think like the biggest problem though is there's so much you don't learn until you're in the field working with people. Because like you can understand how to write functions, how to create modules, the overall app architecture, but you don't learn a lot of things until you're on a team dealing with merge conflicts, scaling issues, deployment problems. Like you don't really learn that stuff until you have to learn it.
yeah, but the push is to replace, I mean not replace, but to make most of this type of work unnecessary, right? So I think that they will succeed because again it's moving so fast, it's growing
Hmm.
so fast, like it's becoming more powerful like almost weekly, maybe not weekly, but like monthly. Um, so I don't know, like even for like for things like debugging and like figuring out bugs, not always, but quite often, I cannot figure out something, and AI gives me the answer like immediately. I can give you a very simple example. It's ridiculous. Like I had a situation where a piece of UI was not rendered, and I was so confused because it's there.
Hmm.
I can see it in the template. What the hell is going on? It's not rendered. And I was like, it should be so easy to fix that I'm not gonna bother with like writing a prompt, stuff like this. And I just couldn't see it. And after like, I don't know how long, but after some time, I was like, I give up. I will ask AI. And I was like, hey AI, like this piece of UI is not rendered. I cannot understand why. And I immediately got an answer. Well, there is an if, and it's false. So like there's this special, colon if attribute.
Yeah.
I couldn't see it. I just couldn't see it.
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah, exactly. But in even like silly cases like this, like it can help. I don't remember why I'm saying this, by the way. What was the starting point?
I mean, I use it a lot for writing tests, and like I obviously go through and make sure that I agree with all the use cases that are written. But just the other day I wrote a test and I was like, why is this thing failing? And I just crossed variable names. So I was asserting two different things and it was failing. And yeah, same kind of circumstance. It immediately sees something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. It has
But
its benefits.
yeah, but I also had some cases where something was like really difficult to find and figure out, and it would like scan the whole code base and provide a lot of information. And in some cases, it would actually tell me like what the culprit is. And I was like blown away. Absolutely.
I guess that's the benefit of using Cursor or something too, because it can actually see your full code base.
Yeah. Although it's not perfect. Like you have to either provide like explicitly add certain files to the context.
Oh, okay.
But you can also like mention some things, like entire folder, for example. But what I'm waiting for is having Cursor or any other editor to just always have the entire context, like the entire code base, because that would be like the perfect environment for AI.
I feel like it can't be that hard to do that, right? Because you would only have to update files if they've been touched. So I feel like they would be able to just like kind of hold them in cache.
Yeah, I think it's more about like the limitations of the context window or whatever it's called.
When you send the prompt, right? Because it probably has to include all that then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That would be really cool. Like if like as you're searching a project for a function and your language server crashes and you can't click on it, it could just pull it up really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, like going back to like your question, which I now remember, I think, in theory, like we should become way more productive, but we need to like consciously learn people how to use AI.
Yeah.
Like it has to become a thing, because I don't think it is now.
Right. And we can't forget about everyone that's learning how to code too, because I feel like that, like I don't think it would not be enjoyable to start learning right now and try to find a job. It'd be very difficult.
Yeah, for sure. Like I don't envy people, honestly. Like there's just so much technology. Like even if you like, even in our niche, like Elixir and like surrounding ecosystem, it's already so big and so many things to learn. But like if you want to find like a JavaScript job, for example, like JavaScript ecosystem, oh my God, like go and learn all of that. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you can't even just say JavaScript, right? It would have to be like React, Node.js, or like whatever it might be. Like you have to pick your poison.
Yeah, the framework of the week. Yeah,
exactly.
I actually didn't use any framework in JustCrossPost.
You did what?
I didn't use any framework, any JavaScript framework in JustCrossPost.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of JavaScript, but I just wrote everything as like vanilla JS.
Okay.
I don't know. It's simple enough, and I like to joke that I used to write, SPAs before we had the term, like back in 2007. So I'm pretty comfortable like putting together a little bit of JavaScript, like abstractions for like events and handlers, stuff like that. So I have my own little thing, and it works. I do worry that at some point I will realize that it was a mistake and I should have used, a framework.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So far, so good.
I struggle my way through writing like JS hooks and things, but I can still write JavaScript.
Yeah.
I can read it better than I can write it, but in another life, I wrote JavaScript every single day, and now I don't.
Yeah, I typically avoid it, but once I start writing it and something like starts to work, like I start to enjoy it for
Yeah,
whatever
it comes
reason.
back
So
really quick. And
yeah,
honestly,
yeah,
like I was writing TypeScript randomly the other day, and I was like, I kind of miss TypeScript. TypeScript is nice.
yeah. About that, like I cannot like I should have written this in TypeScript because I really like TypeScript. I do not understand why I forgot about TypeScript and wrote the thing in plain JavaScript. I just
Yeah. Well,
so
there's a nice
strange.
weekend project for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's easy to convert JS to TypeScript. Maybe. I don't know. Hard to
I don't
say.
know. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a minute, but it's doable. It's not hard. You just have to go through and put your typing everywhere.
Yeah, but it would be a risky task.
Yeah, you could
Like,
break a lot.
yeah, it's so easy to break this stuff. And, I have, some tests for the UI, but there are so many scenarios that are definitely not covered. Like I have like a test suite in Jest, it's called, I think, for like the model stuff in JS,
Mm.
and and a bunch of Playwright end-to-end tests that are like I wrote. I mean, I asked AI to write a script for me that would run end-to-end tests, but in isolation. So like it parses the files, it extracts all the file numbers where the tests are defined, and then it runs them in isolation. It's like every single test scenario is run in isolation. And I have that because I didn't figure out how to properly configure like all the database stuff in Ecto so that things are isolated between the test runs. It's a challenge, and I didn't figure it out. And it runs fast enough, so I'm okay with it for now. But still, even with these end-to-end tests and Jest tests, I every now and then I would make a simple change and then realize that I actually broke a feature. So yeah, the front end stuff is really hard to test. I mean, to have automated tests that would
Yeah, it
really
is.
cover a lot of ground. It's really hard.
That's why, like, I love being just a back end dev because I feel like our life is so much easier to write a test for like this function should do this and it's done. And then if it breaks, you have to go just check on whatever you just refactored and you don't have to
Yeah.
worry about a button showing up in a certain spot and then it doing a certain action when you tap it. Like like so much can break.
Yeah. Playwright is actually advertised as, I mean, it used to be, at least when I discovered it like 3 years ago or so. It says that it fixes the problem of flaky tests, and it absolutely does not fix that problem.
That's funny. Well, I just feel like, yeah, like end-to-end testing is difficult. It's a difficult thing. Like writing a good unit test is just so much easier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even like
Actually,
integration tests and like all that stuff is so much easier.
oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I sometimes struggle with the tests for LiveView components, and it's just because I don't remember the syntax. I'm still
Hmm.
learning it. I actually learned LiveView, like properly learned LiveView when working on JustCrossPost, because at my previous job, like I mentioned, it was Oban and integrating with external services and processing data in Oban almost all the time. So I barely touched front end there, barely did anything with LiveView. So I really learned it now. But when it comes to testing, I'm still sometimes I would try to do something like intuitively, and it turns out that it doesn't work, especially when it comes to like I know filling in the form. I didn't remember how to do it, and I wrote like fill or something, and
Hmm.
then I realized that, oh, I mean, not realized, I had to like go to the docs and see that it's you pass data into the form helper,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
test helper, and that's it, which is beautiful actually, because it's just a single call and I love it. But my intuition told me something completely else,
Yeah.
that like you create a form and then you pipe through like fill this, fill that, because this is how it works in many other frameworks. But it wasn't like that in this LiveView test. So like I tripped on it. And the worst thing for me is like trying to see if some piece of text or something is in the output, and you get this like gigantic, blob of text in the output, and you gotta like copy and paste to AI, to the composer in cursor, and be like, yeah, like why is this not passing? Like, please
I
tell
have
me.
not written any LiveView tests. I feel like I should probably learn and dig in a little bit, because it would probably be a good skill to have.
Oh, so like I complain a little bit, but I actually really like them. You have like the really easy way of rendering these components and tests, and a lot of helpers for like assertions. So we can like really write a lot, like cover a lot of functionality just by running these tests, and they are very fast. So it's a win. But I consider it a backend test still, right? Like you cannot compare this with an end-to-end test where like an actual cursor clicks on an actual button, right? So
yeah,
I still for like crucial functionality, I still like to have end-to-end tests, even though I hate maintaining them. It's a nightmare.
Because they always break. One little tweak.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I should write some front end tests, UI tests, but I don't know.
Yeah. So
I break my
cursor,
website all the time because I change things and then they don't catch it.
yeah, you can have some like basic smoke tests, like go to the page, see if there's a piece of text that you expect it to be there,
That's a good
and
idea.
stuff like this. So it's super basic, and it's gonna help you catch some really silly mistakes where something just broke completely.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
I believe in testing. I do. I just like living in the back end.
Yeah, same. But yeah, what I wanted to say, like mention, is like previously, before I started using AI for development, I was like really into behavior-driven development / test-driven development. So I would always write tests first, and then make them pass, and then refactor, and the common TDD cycle. But I would approach it from like a more behavior-driven development point of view. So I would focus on like higher level functionality first, and describe something like at the very top level, like how something should work, and then I would go deeper and deeper as I would continue developing a feature or something. So that was like my natural way of writing code for many years, and it just turned upside down now. Like I stopped doing that because AI gives me a lot of code immediately with tests. So,
Nice.
I do review them, and sometimes it struggles with the setup. So sometimes I would have to provide some examples where the setup exists and be like, yeah, see this file for reference. But it generates really good tests, and it does this so fast. Like I have a lot of tests for JustCrossPost, a lot of case start cover. I mean, definitely not everything, it's impossible, but a lot. So, and again, like it feels weird for me because I'm not used to it, and I try to ask it to actually follow that like test-driven development cycle. Like, please write a test for it, blah 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 blah. But then I was like, it's a waste of time. Like, it's gonna generate the same thing, and like whatever. I mean, there's value in seeing the test failing. So I guess for that part, I should do it.
My process is probably a little backwards. Like I'll always write the function for how I think it'll work. Then I implement my test and I hope my test fails, and then I go fix all my logic.
Oh, that's interesting.
But the problem with that approach is when your test passes, you're like, did I do something wrong? And then you have to make the test fail on purpose to make sure that your function's actually working.
Yeah.
I don't know. I probably have extra steps because then I have to add some logging and stuff, and I don't always trust my work. But test-driven development's good. I just I always write the test after. I don't know.
Yeah, I know that for many people it just feels more natural. I like force myself to learn that the opposite is natural.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good, right? Because you always start with a failure then, and then you see it go green when you finish your function.
Yeah, and it also helps you, like prevents you from writing too much code, which
That
is
too.
very
Yeah.
valuable. So
Oh, yeah. Oversolving is a problem. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's good. It's good advice too. Test driven. I'm trying to think who wrote the test driven development. Is it Phoenix Test TDD? Yeah, TDD.
There's a book out there about it, I think, or maybe not a book, but like a online course or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an online book. Who wrote it though? Oh, Jermaine.
Ah, right, yeah, yeah. He's a good fellow.
Yeah, he has a lot of good content. And how am I not following him on Twitter? Follow. But yeah, go. That's a really good book, actually. I started scanning through it, but it's just tddphoenix.com and lots of good stuff.
Yeah, I now remember that I have a to do to check it out more closely because
A
I'm
to
like,
do. That's my problem. My to do is just open tabs, and then like I'm like, well, I'm not actually gonna ever go back to this, and then I slowly start closing my tabs because they've been open too long.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, this one's
I have the
actually it's worthwhile for sure.
Yeah, I have the opposite problem, like close tabs too fast, and then I am like, oh damn it, what was it? Where was it?
Oh, I hate when I accidentally close a tab too quick, and then you have to like pull up your history and be like, I think it was this one.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's my life.
worst. Yeah, for real.
Yeah,
All right.
but yeah, sorry.
Go ahead. I was gonna say we can probably wrap this up. It was
Sure.
awesome. It was awesome meeting you, Peter. And
Likewise.
just crosspost it app looks awesome. Everyone go check it out. I keep thinking I'm gonna like be dyslexic on it and turn it around and tell people the wrong domain. But yeah, just crosspost it app. And in the show notes, I have all of Peter's contact info and give him a follow. I think you prefer Blue Sky or X, but you're on both of them, I believe.
Yeah. Blue Sky and Mastodon are actually like my favorite networks now.
Okay, nice. I've never gone on Mastodon. I'll have to check it out. Is it same thing? Is it short form or what is it?
It depends on the instance. Some instances have like very large like limits.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll have to check it out. We have a guy by the name of Old Coder, 72-year-old antisocial developer who's been flipping bits for 50 years. Well, thanks for tuning in. That's awesome. He could probably teach us quite a bit.
Nice.
But all right, thank you, Peter, and thank you everyone else that tuned in. Have a good weekend, everyone. Testing.